In this episode of the hashtag Ask the Anxiety Guy show, I'm talking about existential anxiety, nightmares, and what I would have done differently on my anxiety recovery journey. Warriors, welcome. Your questions matter. You're listening to the Ask the Anxiety Guy show.
This podcast episode is brought to you by the End the Anxiety program, a downloadable CBT-based program created by the anxiety guy himself to help heal your emotional distress and put anxiety behind you once and for all. Visit www.anxietyexit.com to learn more today.
Warriors, welcome to episode number 144 of the Anxiety Guy podcast. This is the hashtag Ask the Anxiety Guy show, where you ask the questions on anxiety, my personal life, whatever, and I answer those questions as best I possibly can. My friends, today we're talking about getting up in the middle of the night with panic, heart palpitations, sweatiness. We're talking about existential anxiety and more. Before I get into this podcast episode, I want to remind you that you can follow me on Instagram at The Anxiety Guy. Hope you're enjoying my workout stories and all sorts of other funny and real stuff that I share on Instagram. I love you all so much there. Thank you for the incredible support. My friends, I don't want to waste any time today. Let's get into number one. Question number one comes from Leah Friesen. Leah, thanks for your engagement. Your email is this. Dennis, I just had a question for you. I've been doing the End the Anxiety program. Thank you for that. And lately, I have been dealing with nightmares and a lot of middle of the night anxiety where I wake up in the middle of the night with heart palpitations and end up not being able to get back to sleep at night. What can I do to heal myself from this form of anxiety? I would love it if you would answer this question on your show, and I am Leah. Now, here's what I want you to understand, Leah, as well as anybody going through this particular challenge where you're waking up in the middle of the night with anxiety. First thing is, what you implant into your subconscious mind prior to sleep will be evaluated and projected throughout the night and into the next day. So whatever seed you plant in your garden, which is the subconscious mind body, you will unconsciously build on throughout the night and the next day. You must be very, very careful as far as which ideas you bring with you prior to sleep. The second thing is, just because something is outside of your awareness doesn't mean it's not affecting you. So a car could have backfired, or a dog barking, or the light flashed, or whatever it may be, and it affected you, and in that moment, your system believed that, hey, we gotta wake up, you gotta do something consciously, there is danger. So just because something is outside of our awareness doesn't mean that it's not affecting us. We must take this lesson seriously. The other thing I want you to take into account is this. Momentum through the day in the form of the elements that make up your energetic self are switched on. These elements are your core beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. You can't change energy by hoping, by trying, by wishing, and partaking in the same habits. Okay? There must be a change in vibrational momentum throughout the day, because this is what affects you throughout the night. So notice what kind of momentum you're building throughout the day in the form of those elements that make up your energetic body. This is the key, because if I'm scared for the whole day, I can't expect myself to have a good night's rest, to have a deep sleep. I'm going to be fearful, doubtful, scared throughout the night. This continues. The other thing is this: upon waking up in the middle of the night, if it happens again, condition a response that favors a neutral perspective, meaning when you get up, you must remind yourself of the truth. You must remind yourself of what is logical in this moment, because your initial reaction will be based around fear, and that's okay. That's called first fear. That's fine. The second fear is always optional. So now you have a choice to begin training your energetic body to show it that, hey, the car was going off, the alarm, or the dog was barking, or hey, I created all this momentum throughout the day. I gotta be gentle on myself right now. And slowly create boredom. Don't just go back to sleep. Create boredom, walk around, and then go back, lay down. Don't expect to get to sleep right away, and allow your system to do what it does best. Identify when the right time is to get sleep. Finally, take into consideration this: we must meditate prior to sleep. This is a great momentum builder for the night. As well, you can find a tea such as basil or chamomile or any other type of tea that lessens the sensitivity to you getting to sleep. Because there will be that sensitivity like, oh my goodness, I remember what happened to me a few days ago. I hope it doesn't happen again. And when these thoughts begin to arise, it's almost like creating your internal alarm clock. It's almost like you're conditioning yourself now to wake up in the middle of the night with panic. You don't want to do that. So those are some very important keys that we need to remember if you're currently going through this waking up in the middle of the night, anxious, panicky type of cycle. Leah, I love you so much. I hope I've helped with that. Question number 2 comes from James Holden on Instagram. James, thank you. What would you have done differently, Dennis, during your transition to being anxiety-free? That's a great question, actually. What would I have done differently? I got to look back and remember a couple things. Here's what I would do. I would have recognized how my desire for control over myself led to the need for certainty over every aspect of my life, which then led to the need to worry constantly, which was fueling my anxiety. The recognition would have led me to opportunities throughout the day where I could catch myself in the cycle, recognize it, and how it was conditioned into me. And I would begin doing things to break that anxious state. The truth is that I would have been a lot more logical, rational at the start of my transition, rather than continuing in that impulsive manner that I had, based on some catastrophic way of seeing a symptom or a situation. So I would have started quicker. I would have been a bit harder on myself in terms of, I got to be conscious more throughout the day, recognizing times where I'm building it up, because anxiety gets built up. It's not like, boom, it just shows up. It's not like that. It's like you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm going to go for that drive, and then this is going to happen, and someone might cut me off, and oh my goodness, what if I panic, and so forth. So it's a build-up. You're basically warming up for the emotional trauma later on in the day. I would have also stopped searching for external things and other people so much to help me turn my anxious conditioning around. I needed to recognize that this was a belief, identity issue, not an environmental or so much a behavioral issue. Oh, if I change my behavior, everything's going to change. Nope. Oh, if I just change my environment, maybe the anxiety will go away. Nope. It's a core belief issue. It's an emotional trauma issue, and it's an identity issue. I see it over and over and over again with the people I work with. Finally, I would have slept earlier. I would have exercised more, even in the face of my anxious thoughts about exercising. And I would have embraced fear rather than avoid uncomfortable feelings. Let's understand this. Freedom lies on the other side of fear. But you can't get rid of fear completely. You can only train the inner system to recognize what justifies a fight or flight response and what doesn't. Let me explain. A truck coming at you does justify a fight or flight response. A meeting with people who are more concerned about themselves than you doesn't justify the fight or flight response. We must teach the 6-year-old's subconscious mind body, which has the cognitive rationale of that 6-year-old. That's what I would have done. Love you, James. Great question. Question number 3 comes from Harriet Bell. Harriet, thanks for the question. I was wondering if in your podcast or on a video you could talk about existential anxiety, if you have any experience with it. I'm deep in the anxiety struggle at the moment, and particularly with existential meaning of life anxiety. It's a great question. It's a question that I haven't really answered, or maybe I have in the beginning of my YouTube videos, but that's a great question. That is something that really does promote a ton of anxiety. Here's my answer. The more we search for the meaning of life, the more complicated it all becomes. The meaning of life and your purpose on this planet arrives in your intuition. It's not something that's in the books or can be trained into you. Perception is subjective, and we all have a personal journey to take and things we need to get done for the betterment of mankind while we're on this planet. So the best thing for existential anxiety is to understand what is within your control, you and all that you are, and what is out of your control, meaning the answers to the meaning of life by ruminating over it. Now, since we are energetic beings, we must understand that the more chaos we have surrounding the things that make up our energetic selves, the more we push away who we can truly become. I would turn my focus to self-mastery, and I would master the skill of embracing silence. I would also begin whispering to the subconscious mind the questions I wish answers for, rather than screaming at it. The law of substitution says we must replace one thing with another. If we are focused on something that is creating conflict, we must refocus our attention just as intently on something that opposes the negative emotions. Thoughts replace thoughts, actions replace actions, and so forth. Civilizations from the past, especially Stoicism, have taught us that we have 2 main reasons for being on this planet. 1, to learn how to live a good life. 2, to help leave this planet better than how we came to it. That's it. That's my answer. Run with it. Warriors, as we conclude the hashtag Ask the Anxiety Guy show today, I want to leave you with the quote of the week. Are you ready? I want to empower you. I want to set you up for self-mastery. Here it is. The language of your heart is hundreds of times stronger than the language of your brain. And for all the YouTubers out there, this is the question of the week. Are you ready? Who do you know in your life that you'd be able to spend more time with to help? Remember, if you want to change something about yourself, help someone else who's going through the same challenge and watch the clarity you begin gaining. Warriors, I love you so much. I believe in you. We are in this together. We are moving forward together. If you're enjoying this podcast, please give it a positive rate and review, and I'll see you very, very soon. Remember, you are more than anxiety. Bye, guys. Warriors, remember, you are more than anxiety. You keep asking the questions, and I'll keep answering them.